And it is started, so you can start in 3, 2, 1, record.
So, okay, you know how there's like memes, and some of them are just like bad right from the start, like Facebook minion pictures. You know, the ones that are like just a shot of just like a generic like shot of like a minion, and it says my face when somebody eats. There's just those dumb Facebook posts and shit.
My face when somebody eats my ass.
Yeah, my
or whatever.
Face, yeah, my face when my face when I walk in and see my son's asshole while he's jerking it off to gay porn.
Yeah, there are some memes that are destined for greatness, and others that are destined for the ninth circle of hell.
Yeah,
upon arrival.
Well, and you probably know what I'm about to talk about because I just showed it to you like 5 minutes ago, and you just yes. So there's the meme. There's the whole meme of like finding like an old picture of like let's say it'd be like a picture of like your dad like I don't know whipping you in the Chinese laundry when you were a little toddler. Racist joke there. And so you find that picture and you post it up, and you post up the modern picture of your just like your old dad.
Yeah. The meme of reenacting baby photos, or more appropriately reenacting wedding photos, which I think is cute.
Yeah. Or the other one of like puppies, and the dogs, like the puppies like. Like there's like the puppy sleeping on the couch and it's like really tiny, and then when it's all grown up and it's like 200 pounds, it's like a 200-pound Saint Bernard, and it's like
sleeping in the same position.
Taking over the entire couch or something. Really cute. There's a point where they go too far. And I just showed you this one, and actually I'll
go ahead and link it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll link it in the show notes. And just go have a gander at it. I'm not going to directly post the image in the show notes, because when you click on it, you'll see why. Let me just say it is NSFW. Very, really NSFW. And I think that's all we need to say about it. So, all right, let's go into the main topic. You said yours.
Yeah, we're gonna go right into our main topic today. But before we do that, I'm in bullshit,
and I'm in Deathnick.
And you're listening to the fucking amazing podcast, or for short, FAPCast, episode 14.
By the way, how you feeling, dude? You were out for a while.
Dude, yeah, so if you're wondering about the space in between episodes, occasionally it's because I get very sick, and I had, for the first time in my life, this has never happened to me before, as far as I can remember. Could have happened when I was, too young to formulate memories, but as far as I can remember, I have never gotten sick in the summer. Ever. And for the very first time, and I'm pretty sure it was a customer at work that got me sick, I got horribly sick during the summer. I had a very high fever and flu-like symptoms for several days. And there was a day in particular where I just could not get out of bed, on top of the fact that it was 90 degrees in my room.
Oh god, yeah. That's what makes summer cold so much worse, is because it's fucking incredibly hot.
I'm now nursing a swollen foot, as halfway through my cold, my feet started to get sore and swell up inexplicably. So one of them's still kind of sore right now. I can't really stand on it, but once that goes away, then I should be perfectly back to normal, because I'm over the cold at this point. Just got a little bit of coughing left.
Okay, so you're doing better now.
Yeah, much better now. It was so weird. I've never been sick in the summer before. It was a completely new experience, and it was horrible, and I hated it. We're gonna go right into our main topics tonight, because both of us actually have to kind of go a little early tonight.
Yeah, not mentioning the fact that it's like over 100 degrees. I have to shut my truck off to record.
In order to record, yeah. So we're gonna kind of get through this a little quickly because Undefinit's going to get really hot in that truck. It's still sunny where you are too, isn't it?
Well, I'm up here in Oregon, but I'm in the for those who don't know, like that, all those pictures you see of like Oregon and like Portlandia and shit of like just these green forests, these green, cool, wet forests. Yeah, that's like 20% of the state. The other 80%, the other 80% is just fucking desert.
Yeah. So, you're in the same belt that I am here in California right now, and sundown doesn't happen until like 8:50 p.m. and it's still got an hour and a half at least of sunlight left for you. So we'll get through our topics pretty quickly, so you can turn your truck back on.
Yeah. So my topic is just really just talking about really funny conspiracy theories that you kind of wonder if people believe or not, and if they do, or even if they do, these make for like really just awesome settings. These make for really awesome sci-fi settings. Actually, there's actually one in particular I want to talk about because I just found out about it like last week, and I haven't gotten too far into it. But from what I've seen, it's fucking amazing. It's called the tree stump theory, and it's something concocted by flat earthers, and what it implies is that mesas and like plateaus and like the Devil's Tower in Wyoming.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, I've been there too. It's really amazing.
It's a really cool place to go, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I know, according to geologists, people who actually study this shit, that Devil's Tower is the core of an ancient volcano. It's literally all that's left of a volcano.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have mesas and stuff, just like giant, solitary plateaus like in the Southwest and in various parts of the world. And we know, and we kind of have an idea of how they were formed and everything, and that's all great. Apparently flat earthers feel the need to explain these because, I just thought that they just believed that the Earth was flat. Well, it turns out there's a lot of things in geology they don't believe in, like I guess the formations of canyons and all this shit. Like anything to do with geology, they just flat out don't believe in, or they don't understand, and thus choose not to believe or have any kind of understanding. And apparently, they think that Devil's Tower and all these mesas, in the Southwest and all across the world, are the stumps of ancient gigantic trees. And the weirdness doesn't stop there.
Oh, okay. I was going to comment on that, but no. Now I want to hear the rest.
Okay, and this is all coming from a post I saw on Tumblr, but. So I do need to find more sources on this, but it's a conspiracy theory, so who gives a shit? But apparently, we've had ancient many mile high trees up until the 19th century. In fact, the redwood forest in Northern California is considered to be a nursery for these ancient trees, like those giant redwood trees in Northern California, those redwoods and sequoias.
Yeah, you mean the ones that are already hundreds of years old?
Yeah, and nearly well over 600-700 feet tall. They're like, wait, are they that tall? Shit, I forgot how tall redwoods are. But apparently, those are just babies. Those are just saplings. So yeah, up until the they speculate that up until the 19th century, we had gigantic many mile tall trees.
Up until the 19th century? So,
yes.
like, why aren't there any, like, drawings
Well,
from the 18th century?
dude, you know how an iceberg is?
Uh-huh.
The tip of the iceberg is, flat earthers believe that those mesas are giant tree stumps. We're just at the tip.
Good. There's more. I'm glad.
Yes, be very happy. So, apparently what happened is, well, humans used to be a hyper advanced race. We used to have incredible technology and incredible power, and it derived partially from these trees. And basically what happened in the 19th century is a war broke out, an apocalyptic war broke out that one of the side effects is all of the trees were during the war were cut down and used in the war, and that's how they were destroyed. And it just also in the apocalypse, it just destroyed massive amounts of forests. And the reason we have topsoils, that is the ash from the fires. That all the topsoil we have now is just ash, and all that's left of the giant trees are these tree stumps. Now, the first thing you might ask is, well, these mesas and Devil's Tower, that's stone. That's like granite and sandstone. And they're like, oh, well, that's because the larger a tree gets, it turns to stone as it grows.
It's not. They weren't going to say, oh, no, it's just petrified. They had to make it like.
No, they literally, the larger they grow, they basically claim that all wood is stone. That all wood is stone. Isn't
in alchemy, like, okay, go back even, before the 19th century, back to the days of before chemistry, where alchemy was the reigning science, was not wood and stone by those ancient alchemical scientists considered to be two different elements?
Yeah.
How can you, like, I was with you up until they said, oh yeah, as it grows it turns to stone. I was like, you couldn't just say it's petrified, because that's a real thing that happens to wood.
Yeah, and
in real life.
Well, and here's the thing: is like, well, how do they explain like this sudden leap in technology and all this stuff? Well, they said that they also make the claim that like mining didn't exist until the 19th century, until after this apocalypse happened, because the trees leached precious metals and rare earth metals and all this from the ground. And they just basically had to just drill into the trees to get the minerals.
So Romans didn't mine?
Nope. That's all.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all bullshit. Okay.
Yeah,
and
also volcanoes are just the remnants. You know how like in Fallout 4 and Fallout 3, well, I don't remember in Fallout 3, but in like Fallout 4 there's that one area of the map which is just super radioactive and super dangerous. Have you played Fallout 4?
I have played Fallout 4.
Yeah. So you know about it, and like in the center there's that village called the Children of Adam, because that's where a supermassive nuclear bomb blew up. Well, volcanoes are where these supermassive nuclear bombs blew up. and
that's why there's just holes down to the core of the earth. It's because we fucked up with our nuclear weapons and created volcanoes by accident.
Yes. So apocalyptic nuclear war took place in the 19th century, and that volcanoes are just giant slag pits, boiling with just molten rock from the bombs.
Doesn't that sort of tie back into the ancient lore of Scientology, where Xenu?
Yeah, Lord Xenu.
Xenu created life by coming to Earth going to a ring of volcanoes and blowing them all up with an atom bomb.
Yeah, to kill all the species, and like they're trapped on spacecraft that look like DC-8s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
DC-8 airliners. Yeah. It's just yeah. I'm just hang on. I actually found a page which kind of summarizes the whole conspiracy theory. And apparently, oh god, this is even better. Apparently, like things like the Grand Canyon and like the fjords of Norway are just a result of like trees being pulled out of just like in the massive destruction of this nuclear war, these giant trees being like ripped out of the ground. You know how like when you rip a root out of the ground, it makes a gouge?
It makes a gouge because the roots travel real far underground. So when you pull them up, it creates a little tiny canyon.
Yeah.
Now, see, that actually makes sense, except for the part where they said that the mesas were stumps, but the canyons were from them ripping the trees out. Now, did they cut the trees down, or did they rip the trees out? That's my question.
Well, apparently some trees were cut down for use in the war, and then other trees were just blown out. We're just apparently just blown out from all of these bombs.
Yeah, by the force of the bombs, of course.
Yeah. It's sort of like how it's like compared. It's like, God, I don't want to make the compare. Okay, this is really okay. I think it's been long enough. It's like comparing, and then when you decide to take down a building, you implode it, make a nice neat little pile, and 9/11. Okay, that's that. Okay,
where you yeah. That's the one. That's your one for tonight.
Yeah, that's fine.
You only get one per episode, one reference to 9/11 per episode.
Thank God. And that. Oh God. Okay. Against the blah 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 blah. Oh shit! Apparently. Oh my god. Okay, apparently what we know of as the 19th century and this war happened thousands of years ago. And that our sense of time has just been warped either by just the natural results of the war or by some overriding like Illuminati, Zionist, whatever force. That our perception of time has been warped to think that the 19th century only happened, about 100 to 200 years ago. No, it happened thousands of years ago, and the Earth has just slowly been dying.
Well, that does certainly explain global warming.
Yeah. Yeah, and apparently we're living in the dust of in the twilight of our planet. We're living in the dust of our planet, and it'll come back slowly. The redwood trees, the massive all forests that exist right now is just the Earth slowly trying to heal. Eventually, those trees will be many miles tall. It's just they're just babies right now. Eventually, the Earth will heal, but we'll most likely be gone because we're in the apocalypse. This
you
is
mean
all.
That wasn't the apocalypse? The part where we tore down all the giant trees?
Oh no! I meant we're in the post-apocalypse. We're and the reason like we supposedly have come so far, it's like why we're not like we're not raiding and raping and killing each other now is because we've passed all that over the many years since this war. We've already got that's what the Middle Ages and stuff were. That's what the Dark Ages were. That was like the apocalypse. That was the immediate post-apocalypse. Just like it was just complete chaos. And now we're sort of on the rise again, but we're most likely just going to go extinct. We'll never be able to come back from where we were. when we when we when we had gigantic trees that we just mined all our minerals from.
I honestly feel like this is some new like sect of Scientology.
Yeah, I'll link to the article. It's on the Atlantic. And just give it a read. This is a good starting point for where you can get into this, because see, this is the kind of conspiracy theory that I like, because it's so funny and not nefarious. This isn't like Sandy Hook. This isn't like, the 9/11 truthers, where it like actively like causes like real pain and suffering to people. No, this is just a bunch of people thinking like, going to Devil's Tower and being like, that's a tree. That's a big old tree. We had a war, and that's all that's left. That's just a big old tree stump. We could probably blow it up with some TNT.
Mine some minerals out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of like, it's horribly ignorant of geology and just science in general, but at the end of the day, it's pretty harmless. It's pretty harmless. And when you look at like all they've come up with, you can think about it, it's like, this is a really good like video game setting, or like this is an RPG setting.
Well, and my thing is this, like, really, where do we so many of these ludicrous geology denial and or science denying conspiracy theories would make such great like actual like fantasy novels or science fiction video games or things like that.
Oh yeah, like this, or actually like Terry Pratchett, riffed on the flat earthers with his entire story, all his books, taking place. I forgot the name of the lands, but yeah, it all took place on like a giant plate that was held up by elephants that were riding like a giant sea turtle swimming through space. Yeah, it's like this is like a really fucking, actually, this kind of, in a small way, reminds me of like Xenogears. You know how like I forgot which in which game, but it's like the entire game, like the entire landmass, like takes place on like the arm or like the back of a god. This is just this giant sleeping god, and it's like damn, this would be fucking awesome. Or it's like all the mesas are just like giant, tree stumps, and like the canyons and fjords are just like the remains of where roots were, and it's just like, man, this would be a fucking awesome like fantasy / sci-fi setting. Yeah. But yeah.
The funny thing is, I'm reading this article here. The original publication of this theory was by a Crimean man. In a post he titled, "There are no forests on flat Earth, wake up." And it has become known as the no forests on flat Earth theory. No forests on flat Earth just like sounds like a prog rock album title. like imagine like some like really out there independent like rock band from Sweden.
Oh, God.
They're like stoner rock, and their first album, No Forests on Flat Earth. Like, I can see it happening.
Okay, and no, you can actually like cut that down to like there are no forests, and just have it be like a black metal band.
There are no forests. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Yeah, this is.
We're gonna have to do this more often. Every time we find a conspiracy theory, we need to pick it apart. This is interesting.
Oh yeah.
Flat earthers are always an endless source of amusement because they're the most harmless kind of uh stupid science denying, conspiracy theorists, because really they don't harm anything. They just believe the earth is flat. Leave them alone.
Yeah. Ultimately, as long as it's like ultimately they really don't hurt anybody, and they're not really you know it's like them, and then you have the people who don't believe that we landed on the moon, and then we have the ones that are I think the ultimate like in silly conspiracy theories is that the moon is a hologram.
I love
That
that
it,
one.
that it's like the one conspiracy theorist goes, "Yeah, we never landed on the moon," and then he goes, "You think there's a moon?" All right, that's all I have to say on my topic. It's a short one, but it was just like this is just too funny to pass up. Now I'm just waiting for like an SCP to be made, like an SCP entry about this, about the Devil's Tower, being like a tree stump.
And all the weird like noises you hear at night are the ghosts of the trees howling because they got cut down.
In a way, I kind of feel like they looked at the Native American mythology, and they were like, we could do better, because the mythology behind Devil's Tower is that a tribe was being chased by, I think it was a tribe was being chased by a gigantic bear, and they prayed to their gods to their gods to save them, and the gods lifted the earth up, and the bear couldn't climb up, so all those pillars are actually claw marks from the bear trying to reach up at the people. And that's fine, that's just mythology. That's, I'm totally cool with that. That's like a really cool story. But this is just oh boy, it's like, come on people. This is.
Wake up! There are no forests.
Wake up! There are no. Wake up, white people! I did it again. All right. Why don't you surprise me with this?
All right. So
You're gonna
this
pop
topic,
this on me.
this topic comes from a conversation I heard on NPR the other day. I would like to preface this, as of the recording of this podcast. Um, we are very recently sad to hear the passing of George A. Romero, who died on
Yeah,
July
that was
16th. Um,
very very unfortunate. Rest in peace.
yes, we're all very sad about that. George Romero, of course, the director of Night of the Living Dead,
Yeah,
and often hailed as the creator of the zombie genre
yeah,
in film.
yeah, the modern zombie genre that you either love or are just tired of. Sorry.
Yeah, but I want to go to another recent death that people may not be quite as familiar with. And this was last year, almost exactly a year ago, as of the recording of this podcast. That was the death on September 16th of 2016 of Edward Albee, the a playwright most famously perhaps known for his work Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf,
Oh yeah,
among other plays, The Zoo Story, Sandbox, and Delicate Balance. He passed away on September 16th, and only recently, actually, just a few weeks ago, as of the recording of this podcast, did his estate make some very public announcements. His will was read, and he wrote in his will a variety of things, but the most important line for the discussion that we're going to be talking about here is, and I quote from his will. I'm actually reading his will here. If at the time of my death I shall leave any incomplete manuscripts, I hereby direct my executors to destroy such incomplete manuscripts. And there's an NPR article You can actually find it on NPR. I'm going to link it in the show notes. Of the estate, his estate has come public, and they have said that they are still deliberating on whether or not certain things from his repertoire, of works will or will not be destroyed. Now, in general, when it comes to things like the last wishes of the departed, people are usually pretty willing to follow the things that people put in their wills, provided they're not ludicrous demands. But as NPR pointed out in this article, as well as the conversation I heard on the radio, in the past, other artist estates have chosen actually to ignore these types of demands. For example, German author Franz Kafka requested in his will, upon the time of his death, for his unfinished work to be burned. His estate did not follow that directive, and instead actually released some of it to the public. Playwright Eugene O'Neill wrote in his will that he wanted his estate to wait 25 years before staging his last final play that he wrote, Long Day's Journey into Night. It was actually staged and run very, very shortly after his death.
Wasn't Mark Twain's autobiography published 100 years after he died?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe that was actually at his request as well.
Yeah, that was at his request, because I remember that was a big deal, and I actually went and bought a copy. And,
so people are people are debating now mostly on Albee's final work, which is a play entitled Laying an Egg, that was actually scheduled to open off Broadway during a time in which he was actually still alive. But Albee was a bit of a perfectionist and postponed the opening of the play twice because there were parts he wanted to rewrite that he felt were not good enough. But for all intents and purposes, people were already practicing, producing, and reading and acting his play. But it is entirely possible that should his estate choose to follow his will, that play, which is quite possibly essentially finished, may never actually see the light of day. Edward Albee was notorious for having many, many, many ideas sketched out, half completed, and things like that, that he would keep and not throw away, but not necessarily ever turn into a full play. And this is all very interesting to me because I myself fancy myself an artist of sorts. And it is interesting to think about, because I to an extent, I understand that that desire to always have your work be perfect before anyone hears it, or at least be perfect enough at your current level of skill before anyone sees it. Yeah. And at the same time, as a lover of many forms of art, I am always fascinated by unfinished works, seeing things that were never finished. For example, let me Google the name because I can never remember it. Franz Schubert's 8th Symphony, Symphony number 8 in B minor, commonly known as the Unfinished Symphony, is a musical. It was a symphony by Schubert that he never finished, and all we have of it is 2 movements and part of the third. Now, after he died, those manuscripts were recovered, and people did play them, and you can actually hear recordings of the first 2 movements and parts of the third. And actually, some people have, many music historians and composers have actually gotten together and attempted to, as best they could, theorize how that symphony would have ended, write that and perform it. There are a few recordings um, of that you can find, and I find that to be fascinating because it's this wonderful what if situation, but at the same time, it's other artists for the love of the artist who has passed, trying to see his final work, see the light of day.
Well, that's also the case with like H.P. Lovecraft. A lot of his stuff that's published now were just rough drafts, and a lot of it wasn't even finished.
Consider also Frank Herbert, the author of Dune, whose son is completing his Dune series.
Yeah.
So it's not something that's ever been done before. But my question for you, M. Def Meg, because you are also a bit of an artist. Do you think that it is moral for us to ignore the wishes of artists like Edward Albee and publish the works that they don't want people to see after they are dead? Or is it moral to follow the wishes of someone who has passed because that was their final wishes, even though doing so may result in the loss of what could potentially be incredible art?
Well, okay, you're actually like you're actually like cracking into some pretty deep philosophical conundrums there. Because one thing I will say right now is that just about every square foot of land, excluding the obvious like Antarctica and shit, there's probably somebody died on it, and there's a good chance their body was just left there. People die and gradually they fade from memory and they're forgotten. It's like, God, because see, oh man, see,
it's a hard question to answer, though, isn't it?
It's terribly hard.
That's why it's been a year since Edward Albee has died, and his estate has neither released his unfinished works nor have they actually destroyed them.
Well, see, this is something I actually think about, quite a bit, because as you know, there are aspects to my life that are out of the norm. Same actually with a lot of you, me, a lot of our friends, and a lot of our listeners, and a lot of fan base. There are aspects of our life that are really weird, and very strange to just the regular person, being, whether it be our kinks or the fandoms we're in or the obsessions we have. And the thing we have to wonder is, like, when we die, it's not if we die, it's when we die, that there's a very good possibility that shit's gonna come out. People are gonna find out about it. And I've thought about that a lot. It's like, I live in South Dakota, a very conservative area, and a lot of people don't know that, like, I'm a furry. A lot of people don't know that I'm bisexual. And it's like, well, if I die, people may start finding out about that. People I may not want to know. And I've given that a lot of thought, and I came to the conclusion that, well, I'll be dead. I'm dead, and part of being dead is having no longer, whether or not we just sit and rot in the ground, which is what I think is just, I just poof out of existence, which is what I think. I believe what happens, or you go to some other place, some sort of afterlife, whether that be paradise or heaven or reincarnation or purgatory or whatever. You cut, regardless of what you believe, when you die, you cut all ties. You literally cut all ties to your mortal coil. So the person doesn't care because they're dead. And this is entirely on the people still living. I can make any request I want. It's ultimately the decision of the people around me who are still living whether or not to go through with it. I feel that's entirely up to, when I die, whether or not the artwork I've made gets released or not, or is just either destroyed or tucked away. Regardless of my decision, it's ultimately up to who's ever managing my estate.
Let me add another complication to this, because you've made a good point, and I agree with you. I'm actually split on this, because on one hand, I'm of the I like seeing incomplete things, because seeing incomplete things, it's why I like watching artists draw on live stream, because seeing incomplete things really gives you a insight into how that artist does whatever it is they do. On the other hand, I completely understand from the point of view of an artist, that you don't want people to see things that aren't finished, because they aren't good. Things that aren't finished generally are not good, and you don't want people who like your music or your art or whatever, to see things that you've done that aren't good, because it's a terrifying thing to think about.
Well,
But at the
see,
same
then,
time, as an artist, I like seeing things that are in motion, in progress. But let me complicate this further, because I like doing that. Um, I feel, and as you know, the play "Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf" is a somewhat politically charged play, and makes uh, many very powerful statements about social politics, and art. um, and I feel, and I don't think I'm necessarily the only person who feels this, and I think this is part of why the debate is raging in his estate as to whether or not they're going to follow it. I feel that him putting that in his will is his last play. That's his last statement about art and the political world of art and art politics. Um, I think, and this is a conspiracy theory, if you will. I think he put that in his will, knowing full well that it was going to spark a debate, and he was just doing it because he thought it would be funny. Because that's what I would do, and I do feel that in many ways, Edward Albee was that sort of person. So my question is, yes, he's dead, he's passed. It's now to the estate, um, to do what they will. But what if Edward Albee, Edward Albee felt that the burning of his incomplete works was in itself, um, an artistic statement?
well, that's
Would that change your answer?
well, then that would imply he's saying whether or not his work is destroyed. That would mean he's making a statement about um the people following through with it or not following through with it.
Mm.
Because, well, okay, it's like, what's the message is he trying to say? Is that okay? Here's what I will say regarding estates and the request to destroy one's own work after somebody passes away. I think, and this also goes for me, I think that request should be ignored. For one, because the person's dead, it doesn't really. Ultimately, once you die, your opinion doesn't fucking matter. your opinion don't mean shit because
you're dead.
Yeah, because your opinion don't mean shit because you're literally turning into shit. So I think the state. I think what he's if that conspiracy theory has some merit, the statement he'd be making is if it is. Do we respect the artist or do we respect their art?
The art, yes, because we have talked about in the past that you have to separate the artist and the art.
Yes, and I think you know full well I am in the camp of respecting the art because I'm a huge fan of H.P. Lovecraft, and I fucking hate H.P. Lovecraft.
Respect the art before the artist has always actually it's been a common thread in most of the discussions we've had about that sort of thing with you. Respecting the art before you can respect both the art and the artist, but you respect the art first.
Yeah, I am firmly in the camp of respecting the art first. So in that case, I would not, if that is his final performance, then I would say I wholeheartedly respect his work before I respect him. And that's if and if he's trying to get a statement out, an artistic statement, that's what he's getting out of me. Yeah. So that's ultimately where I fall down on is I respect the art.
I think that's fair, and that's certainly an argument that has been made. I mean, they took quite a few call-ins on the audio on the radio show that I listened to, and I heard both sides of the argument. And someone did even bring up, hey, it is an artistic statement to burn one's own work. So, if that's his intention, then shouldn't we respect that? And then we got into this whole discussion on NPR about the intent of what the words were. And I think that whole conversation is very interesting. I myself actually am split. I'm not entirely sure that, as I said, on one hand, I respect the artist immensely. I do have a lot of respect for Edward Albee. And I do think that it is, there are many cases in which we have a moral obligation to respect the wishes of the dead. But at the same time, guys, he's dead. He's not going to know. What do you think? George Romero's dead too. He's not going to make him come back.
And ultimately, if an artist wanted to destroy their work, then here's my ultimate opinion on destroying an artist's work. I think the only person who has a right to destroy that work is the artists themselves, and it's unfair of them to lay that responsibility upon somebody else.
On other people, yeah. And if he didn't do it himself, then does that really mean that's what he actually wanted?
Yeah, because you look at Picasso. Picasso destroyed so much work, but he torched it himself. Zdzisław Bezinski, the Polish horror painter, he destroyed huge amounts of his artwork in the 70s. And I feel, and while that's sad, that's ultimately their own decision, their own will. That was their own making.
And they did it while they were alive, yeah.
Yeah, it's like if an artist wants his or her work destroyed, they have to torch it themselves. That's
okay.
Nobody, and it's absolutely unfair to put that responsibility on somebody else.
I think that's a fair statement to make. What I would like is for our listeners to leave comments in the YouTube comment section for us for this episode. What do you guys think? I'm interested in hearing your opinions. It's a discussion that I'm very interested in as an artist, and I will leave us with one final question. And this one's for you, MDevMech. One final question. Let's say one day you become a modestly famous artist for whatever work it is you decide to go on with. I know you're still trying to find your style and all of that. But let's say, for the sake of hypothesis, you became, a moderately renowned artist, say online. we're talking a fair amount of followers on multiple social media accounts, and
Yeah, multiple five.
people can say your name, and in most internet circles, people go, "Oh yeah, that one artist who did that one thing." You're
Yeah,
not known worldwide, but you have a modicum of respect and fame
yeah,
in the
like
world
shit,
of digital art.
yeah, like Shadman, Shad,
Or Zone.
or yeah, Zone, yeah.
Yeah,
Most people know
most people
Zone.
know who Zone is, even if they don't regularly consume his art. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but and and you're nearing the end of your life, and you have all this unfinished work. Would you want to destroy that, or would you want to release it uh,
I
before or
well,
after your death?
I
Like, say you had a
would.
bunch of unfinished sketches, or pictures that never really went anywhere, but you never threw them away because you figured maybe you'd use them for reference later. Is that something you would want people to see, or is it something you would not want people to see?
I I well, and to go off of that really quick, I will say the biggest inspiration I get from other artists is when they post stuff like the redraw meme. Like they like take something they made 10 years ago and then they draw it now, or and stuff like that. And the saddest thing I always hate to see, and this is why I made a point of putting all of my old stuff on Flickr into different albums by year, was because I wanted to, for posterity's sake, just save all of that, and so I can go back to it and look at it and see, and like okay, like you've seen like the pictures I've drawn in the past couple of days of Princess Luna and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I I'd like to take one of those and then go back to 2014 when I started drawing and compare. Look at how much shit's changed and improved. I and I know it pains a lot of artists to look at their old artwork, and I do get that as well. Like, I look at it, it's like it's so simple and it just looks like shit, and but I immediately go, wow, I've actually gotten better, because and that's a really good motivator for me personally. As far as like all the work I've done that has been released and I don't ever intend on releasing now, I would say either just before I die or in my will, I will say publish everything. Make it, publish everything and make it freely available for anybody who wants to see it. Uh, and it's mostly it would mostly be to inspire people, to help people realize that, because that's one of the hardest things you need to realize when you get into anything creative, like if whether you're going into drawing, painting, music production, graphic design, even like stuff like YouTube and stuff, is that all you ever see is the final product. All you ever see is the final product. You never see the work that goes into it. So people often get they
Discouraged.
say, they get discouraged, and they're like, oh, why can't I be awesome like that other person? And they either get this, they never bother to try, or they just give up. And I think taking a peek behind the scenes once in a while really helps people realize, hey, this takes a lot of work, and it's okay to take a lot of work. It's okay to fuck up. It's okay to to go back and change ideas, because there's so much shit. There's so many drawings I've made that I just was just like, well, this ain't going anywhere, or or I just fucking forget about it. It, and I never delete anything. Like, even on my YouTube channel, like there's a lot of videos that that are not publicly available on my YouTube channel anymore, it doesn't mean they're gone. It's just that they're unlisted. It's just like, I looked at them and it's like, well, that's not me anymore, or I just don't like this anymore. So it's like I never like actually deleted anything. I just unlisted it. So it's still there. It's just not publicly visible. It's not easily available. And that's sort of how it is with my old artwork. It's all up there on Flickr, but I don't make it, that obvious. If somebody really wants to find it, they certainly are welcome to find it. So yeah, I would totally just let everything just be published, because not for me, not for my own sake, because again, I'll either be a pile of ash, or I'll be in the ground slowly turning into worm shit. So I don't give a fuck. It's mostly for other people. It'll be to be like, hey, yeah, making something is a lot of bullshit, and it is hard, and it does suck, and you're gonna fuck up. Here's the proof. Here's how it is for me. Look at all of my failures. Look at my failures and realize it's okay.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think it's important for an artist of any kind of artist, when they're showing other people who aspire to be like them, to say, yeah, well, look how much of a fuck up I was in 2014, and here in 2017, look how much of less of a fuck up I was.
Yeah, and then also look at all my failures. Look at my just realize it's okay to it's okay to give up on something and go on to something else, because we all do it. And that's why, like, I'm really happy. That's actually, I'll tell you right now, that's one of the main reasons I pay to the patrons I do or that's why I'm a patron to certain people on Patreon, is because they give behind the scenes access to their production methods, and they talk about where they've screwed up and stuff, and they post up like the stuff that went nowhere. That's why I love following. His old name was Xbox Ahoy. He just goes by Ahoy now. You know the guy. He does the web. He did the. He did Nuclear Fruit and all that stuff. On his Patreon, he posts up like the After Effects, screenshots and all of his production methods on how he makes such slick videos, and it's fucking worth it. It's fucking worth the money I give him every month for to just have access to all that, because it's really interesting, and for a lot of people it's really inspiring. That's any artist who's listening right now, it's like it's look, you cringe at your own artwork and stuff, and it looks like shit and stuff, and it just embarrasses you, but you gotta realize that shit is inspirational gold for other people. And you also gotta remember, and this is just going back to that little 2-panel webcomic I saw on Tumblr, where there's an artist walking up to the table, and he sees like this beautiful like triple layer cake with just awesome looking frosting, and just looks fucking gorgeous, and he or she has this dish with just a cake on it that's just all saggy, and just the frosting just looks fucking all haphazard and shit, and he puts it down, and he's like, oh god, I'm such a shitty, oh god, my cake is just so fucking shit, nobody's gonna fucking like this, and he puts it down next to the awesome cake, and then another person comes up and is like, holy shit, 2 cakes, sweet.
I think that that's one of my favorite comics that I see it every so often on Facebook and Tumblr, and I think that's such a great perspective to have, because it's like, guys, like, yeah, there's going to be someone who's better than you, but then there's also going to be people who are like, hey, more art, cool.
Yeah, and that really helped me like that, and that still helps me because like those pictures I draw of like Cadence and Luna and my own characters and stuff. It's like my pictures of Luna. It's like in my eye they don't look that great, especially compared to other artists. But I put them up. I put them up on Tumblr and on Derpy Brew and a lot of people fucking like it, and that kind of grounds me in realizing that, hey, for a lot of people, this is just more awesome fan art. They don't really care that it's not as great as like Slugbox or what the hell. I'm so out of touch with like who still draws MLP artwork these days. Uh, uh, does Saley still draw? I don't think I
Some,
haven't. Yeah,
some
he does
he does
some.
he does commissions.
Yeah, they do commissions and stuff. Yeah, and it's just something you have to. That's that. I think that's like the all, and we've gotten kind of off the tracks there, but again, that just goes back to my personal decision. It's like, would I have my artwork and all my unfinished work destroyed? Absolutely fucking not. I'd have it immediately published. Hell, if I knew I was gonna die, I'd publish it right away, just sort of as like a final, hand wave out as I let loose this mortal coil. That's just that, but that's just me personally. But again, that's for me personally. And as in regards to other artists, if you want your artwork destroyed, do it yourself. Burn it yourself. That's not other people's responsibility. That's your own responsibility. So, yeah.
All right. Well, let us know in the comment section here on YouTube what you guys think. Cause I'll be interested in hearing your opinions on the matter. I do think it's a very interesting subject. And of course, rest in peace, Edward Halby. Rest in peace, George Romero, and
Yeah,
all of
rest
that.
in peace. Rest in peace. We should probably put something in the title. We should probably make the title something that would encourage people to answer that question.
Yeah. How about this? Holy shit! 2 cakes.
There we go. Perfect.
That is really. I'm gonna. I'm going to link. I'm going to link that post.
Yeah, that's a
Nope,
very good post.
the artist deleted it.
Oh well, I guess we'll have to just find the. That's actually part of the reason why I'm really hoping for RightScribe to take off, because I probably know what happened to that artist and why they deleted it. And
Oh
that's
my
and
God.
it's Tumblr fucking culture. And that's why I'm really hoping that RightScribe takes off, because the quicker it launches successfully, the sooner I'll get the fuck off of Tumblr, because fuck Tumblr.
Well, for your guys' information, I clearly this artist wanted to delete this, so I'm not going to link the picture in our show notes. But
it was their choice. They deleted it, so and they did it themselves. So we should respect.
But I will say that it is possible to Google this picture, because I'm actually looking at it right now on somebody else's blog by just searching the words "Holy shit, 2 cakes." It's a wonderful little comic, 2 panels, but I won't link it here since the artist deleted it. But with that, we wrap up our main topic section. We go into our cool shit segment. Of course, you can find links for everything in our show notes, which you can find a link for in the blog posts for our episodes, as well as in the YouTube description box. As always, I start us off this week. My first piece of cool shit this week is the YouTube channel for a YouTube user named Dangerously Funny. I only just started watching this guy. He is hilarious. This guy has a wonderful voice for the kinds of things that he does. And the kinds of things that he does are take a game to its natural bullshit extremes. So this man has a series of videos for Stardew Valley, where his character is over 70 years old and has the biggest possible farm, only growing the most expensive things and harvesting the rarest of minerals. And his current series in Stardew Valley is him taking all the mods that unlock romance paths for all of the characters who in the base game are unromanceable, and going, well, I'm a 70-year-old god with infinite stamina. Let's see if I can romance them. But he has an absolutely hilarious voice for his series. He's currently doing a series for a game called My Time at Portia, which is a early access Twitch or itch.io game that's sort of like a kind of like a Stardew Valley-ish kind of game. He also just started playing a game that recently came out that I'm actually looking at called Yonder, the Cloudcatcher Chronicles, which looks to be sort of like a kind of Harvest Moon meets Animal Crossing kind of. But anyways, this guy is absolutely hilarious. He's got a very good series of videos for a lot of different games. He's got a Sims 4 series that's very funny. But his voice is absolutely hilarious, so I highly recommend checking him out. His name is Dangerously Funny, and I've linked his YouTube channel here in our cool shit segment.
This guy sort of reminds me of God. Remember when we were talking? Well, okay. There's another channel I'll plug in a future episode that does a similar content with Hearts of Iron 4. But talking about pushing games to their limit, this reminds me. Remember when we talked about the Eternal War? That guy who played Civ 2 for like 12 years, and just it went into a whole dystopian post-apocalypse and everything. Yeah, and also that one guy, I think, who lived in Thailand or Laos, who called himself like a sadomasochistic Buddhist or something, and like made like the ultimate city in SimCity 3000, where it was the perfect city where everybody could live and work in like one square block, and they all conveniently died at the age of 50. And it made like he essentially made like the perfect society, which was fucking terrifying. And I just love this whole idea of just like pushing games to their limits, because, well, in the case of Stardew Valley is so nice and pure that, you just become like an elderly fucking pimp, which is awesome. But yeah, with most games, they just like turn into just like horrific nightmares. Yeah, I love this shit. I love pushing things to the extreme, because you often get horribleness, but in this case,
he has a video on how to make a crop harvest in Stardew Valley that will be worth 1 million gold in one harvest.
God, okay, yeah,
it's fucking incredible.
All right, I subscribe to him, and I'll download. I have YouTube Red, so it's all legal. I'll legally download some of his videos and take a look at them.
One I would recommend is there's a video he does from marrying Pam, who is the old drunk bus driver lady from Stardew Valley. There's a mod that lets you marry her. That video is amazing. It's so funny.
So she just sits around and drinks while you do all the work.
There's a part where he goes to Pam's daughter and tries to give her a gift. She's like, I don't want your gift. He's like, well, I don't want you in my family when I marry your mom. Just he's a very funny person, so I can't do his voice.
That sounds like a hentai. Okay, my first cool thing is this guy. People just call him Avi. The full name is Arduino versus Evil, and this guy just like does videos about tools, and and most of his videos he'll get a tool and he'll completely break it down and go over it in minute detail, and just like and you may not have any interest in like drills or impact drivers or fucking screwdrivers or skill saws and all that shit, but just the way he just goes into like couple of videos I recommend are Bolter worst in class IKEA drill, and then Bolter Hilti drill. Basically, the first video he breaks he disassembles and reassembles an IKEA drill, and then in the Hilti video he disassembles and assembles a $700 drill. And he goes over like, you know, the gearbox, the motor, the fucking molding, and he just makes it so fucking fascinating. And one part what got me to watch him was the IKEA $25 drill, you know, useless or not, and he was breaking it down, and I don't claim to know anything about drills, but he was taking it apart, and I was like, oh yeah, it's from IKEA, so it's obviously going to be shit. But he broke it down and point out, it's like, yeah, this thing's mostly crap, but there's some really quality parts in here, and he broke it down and then put it back together. And he's like, oh yeah, this is something I could definitely let my daughter have. My daughter could definitely get some. I can't get any use out of it because it's so fucking weak, but my daughter could certainly use it. And because he kind of has some old fashioned humor. That's all I'll say is he has some old fashioned humor. So I thought he was just sort of making like, oh, this is a girl's drill, and it's like, and the thing you realize in the same video is his daughter comes in, because he never shows his face. It's just strictly his workbench and stuff, his workplace, his workbench. So you never see his face. You just see his hands. So you don't see anything like that. And his daughter comes in and talks to him, and he talks back to her, and you realize his daughter is 3 years old. So when he's talking about this is like, no, this is a perfect drill. It's not a perfect drill for my daughter who's a woman. It's like, no, this is a perfect drill for my daughter who's 3 years old.
I would like to point out, I'm trolling through his channel here. There is actually a video where he takes the Hitachi magic wand.
Oh yeah, he disassembles a magic wand.
Yeah, he disassembles it and then mods it to be USB chargeable. He adds a USB port to the side so you can charge it with USB. It's a fascinating video. I'm actually clicking around in it, and it's really interesting. He breaks it down to all its components. Goes, yeah, this turns this here, and we'll just mod this over here, and solder this. And I'm like, oh, this is actually really interesting.
yeah, and he also did a video. He's the guy who kind of busted. He kind of exposed the Juicero, the subscription,
yes.
the subscription juice machine, and that's just a fascinating video. Because he breaks it down. He actually shows it's like they're like, oh, the only way you can use these juice packs is with our machine, and he's like, yeah, no, you don't need the machine. He just literally takes one of the bags and just fucking squeezes it really fucking hard. Gets the juice out. But yeah, he breaks it down, and then he turns it into a robot in another video. But yeah, he totally blew the lid on that whole fucking, basically a scam to take money from rich people. Yeah, I compare him to regular car reviews in that you can have absolutely no interest in the thing he's talking about, but you'll still watch it because you're just fascinated with what's going on. And he does a really good job of making whatever he's talking about interesting. And he's also French Canadian as well. He's there's a few parts where because because they live in Quebec, so they're trying to help his daughter become fluent in both English and French. So sometimes his daughter walks in, and he switches from old school. When I say he's Canadian, I'm not talking about the modern, pussy ass Canadian. I'm talking about the old, fucking beans, bacon, whiskey, and lard kind of Canadian. That's the best way to describe him. He's the old school Canadian, and just to hear him go from old school Canadian to just dropping into Quebecois French is startling to say the least. Yeah, so this guy, he's fucking awesome. He's like regular car reviews, so go check him out. It's awesome. So on to your other cool thing, because I'm starting to sweat a lot.
Okay, my last piece of cool shit is a band. This is a Bandcamp link to an album entitled 2, which is the second album by a band known as The Devil and the Almighty Blues. This band is very fascinating. They have a very rich, old Americana sound that's sort of infused with like hard rock and doom metal. Very grounded in blues, and these really great, almost authentically old American hard rock and Americana vocal styles, and they're very, very sort of like sludgy, slow, bluesy kind of metal. Fantastic, and it's just a very, very, very rich American sound, which is hilarious because they're from Oslo, Norway. And they, despite being from Norway, are one of the most authentically American blues rock sounds I've heard in a very long time. They're an independent band, and you can actually purchase this album on Bandcamp, which is the link I've given you. It's just a link to the Bandcamp page for this album. It is fantastic. My favorite track on this album is the 6th track called Neptune Brothers. I really like it. But you can actually go through and read all the reviews for the album. People really, really like these guys. Anyways, the band is The Devil and the Almighty Blues, and you can purchase their album right now. It's €7.
Oh wow! Yeah, I'll have to give them a listen after we get done recording. Cool. All right, my final cool thing is I'd say he's a video game. He's sort of like a freelance amateur video game news reporter. He also does reviews, but he does a lot of commentary just on what goes on, like in regards to video games right now. And I like him because he comes at it as just like you or me. He doesn't have any. He's not a professional at all. This is just something he does on the side because he wants to do it, and he does a really, really good job of just with coverage and everything. I'm not gonna claim he's on the level of Jim Sterling, but he's definitely another person to go to. I'd hardly recommend him over more mainstream outlets. Again, I'm not gonna put him on the level of Jim Sterling, but he's definitely a good person to check out. And he covers he covers news, he does reviews, and recently he's been gaining traction because him along with Jim Sterling have been actually he's done more coverage on this regarding the whole debacle with Alex Mauer, which Jim Sterling touched on a bit, Total Biscuit touched on a bit, but this guy's been doing a lot of coverage of it, and we need to talk about Alex Mauer at some point.
Yeah, at some point we need to do an episode about that.
But we're not going to do that now because it's
not
just
right now.
It's just a huge fucking mess.
Yeah, I need to do more research before we do that.
Yeah. There's just a lot of mess and a lot of drama around that right now, so we just need to wait and see what happens. But he offers a lot of good coverage on it. So yeah, not much to say about it. It's just a really good, nice. I'm not gonna say he's not an alternative, but he's a good supplement to if you're like me or in bullshit and you subscribe and listen to Jim Sterling and like Total Biscuit. He's definitely a good supplement to those guys. So yeah, that's my final cool thing.
And with that, we start up the truck because we are out of here. It's actually getting so hot in here too that I need to turn a fan on.
Yeah, hang on. Let me check out because I just like put my hand on my laptop and I'm like, holy shit, this is fucking hot. Let me see what the temperature says.
Boot up real temp. Check the temperature of your CPU.
Okay, let's see. CPU. Okay, now this is a laptop, so it's gonna definitely be running a bit harder. Oh, okay. Cores are between 50 and 55 degrees Celsius.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
It's just the casing for your laptop's getting real hot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The vents are just pumping out hot air. So yeah, the computer's sitting right around 60C, which for a laptop isn't too bad. But yeah, all the heat's just coming straight out of the vents. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the recording and start up my truck and get cooled the fuck down.
Yo.
So, all right, bye.